What's happening with Mark in this episode, he feels completely powerless. The one thing that I'm supposed to have agency over down here, I no longer have, which was my body and my relationship to my peers and colleagues.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all they have down there. And that was stripped away from them. And so now he's just left with this sense of powerlessness. There is nothing that they cannot do, and there is nothing that they cannot take away from me.
Yeah.
Crazy Stupid Podcast.
Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, if this is your first time watching, we'd love it if you could hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell so that you are aware of when we post things.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Crazy Stupid Podcast. My name is Esther.
And I'm Adrian.
We are here today to talk about Severance Season 2, Episode 5, titled Trojan's Horse.
Another banger, honestly.
Yeah, we're 5 for 5.
Oh, for sure.
Like, they're going crazy. Like, they're just...
Yeah.
And you know what it is? They're like, we don't need filler episodes. Like, they are like, every episode is going to hit. Every episode is going to move this story forward in significant ways, okay? I appreciate that, especially in the era of TV that we're in right now, where you only have 10 episodes. You really can't afford to waste any of that time.
I don't have any complaints so far at all about the season, really.
Nora, everything has been great.
Yeah. First of all, I guess we'll just start with the episode. Shout out to Irving, a real one. MVP, POP, hold it down. Leaving the message for Dylan, and then Dylan putting his thinking cap on.
So wait, was there like a hint that he figured that out? Because when he figured out that it was behind the painting, I'm like, baby, this divine intervention.
No,
how'd you know to look behind the painting?
Because Irving said to Dylan, just hang in there in the previous episode.
Oh,
so when he sees that, he was,
okay. I was honestly going to let that go. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, this doesn't really make sense, but like, whatever. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, yes, I love that. I also feel like this explains why he went so hard last episode. I feel like Irving knew, because there's no way Irving didn't know it was going to go down like that when he went after Helena. He knew, and you could see on his face the knowing. He wasn't surprised. He was sad and devastated, but not shocked.
Yeah.
But I feel like he knew, I got my ducks in order. I found the hallway. I've left the hints. I have one last thing to do, and I'm going to do it.
You can tell how much of an important character Irving was to the show, specifically with the Innies, because I felt the lack. The chemistry amongst the group feels different. And I know that Mark is like the quote unquote leader, like he's, like the supervisor. But I would argue that Irving is kind of like the soul of the group. He is the spirit of that group. And like, there's just a few moments that you just sort of think of, like, one, he's the senior member. And so he immediately had the grandfatherly sort of presence that he brought. I want to say he's almost like the most spiritual. Like he was the one that sort of bought in to a positive vision of what Lumon and Kier represented and felt that he could try to convey that in his own way to his coworkers. Like minor things, like when Helly R started to get the feeling and he goes to Mark.
Should we like stand behind her and cheer her name? Yeah.
Little things like that. Mark doesn't bring that idea up. Dylan doesn't. Like Irving is one that does things like that constantly, where he's giving Mark ideas about things that he should consider when it comes to being a supervisor, especially when it comes to things with Dylan and Helly R. He did that a few times in season 1.
I mean, in the opening episode, when we first meet Mark and he's interviewing Helly, Irving is in the room and you can see Mark looking to him like,
what am I supposed to do? Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely see that. I also think that the feeling of lack, like of him not being there, it also serves another purpose in that like the Innies are now the most isolated that they have been the entire series. And it's almost entirely because of his absence. Without him there, Dylan does not have his person. But also all of that, the falling out with Irving, not a falling out, but Irving being fired and how he got fired with the reveal of Helly has also left Mark and Helly. It has left them with like this distance between them. And so like the team dynamic is completely off now because they're not tied together by anything or anyone. They'll figure it out though. And I think Irving knew that. Irving has faith that they will.
Also some other things that, man, John Turturro's acting was so good last episode. the switch that he had from very violent with Helena to so calm and nurturing with Helly R, I thought was so incredible. And I loved that he kept apologizing to her afterwards. One, on the sense of like, I'm sorry that I had to do this violent thing to you. But two, I'm sorry I had to bring you back to this world that I know you didn't want to exist in, that you were constantly trying to escape from. Yeah, man, you feel it. This is going to feel like a bit of a tangent, but this is, I think, what I was trying to explain a few episodes ago, back in like December, when we were talking about House of the Dragon, and I was like, something feels missing in season 2, and I was like, it's because
Patty.
Viserys is gone and what Patty Constantine did. This is exactly how I feel with John Turturro and in Irving. You just have this magnetic, caring person on the screen, and it's so abruptly taken away that you as the audience and the characters in the show are still trying to figure out, how am I supposed to navigate in this space with this person gone?
Yeah, I feel like with Severance, it's a much more intentional choice, though, because we're meant to go through this journey with them as they figure out what and how they are going to fill this void.
Yeah.
I also have to say major props to the actors in this show, because the fact that Irving's being fired still feels like a loss. Like, it feels like the death of a character, even though we know we're still going to see Outie Irving, is such a testament to the actor, John Turturro. But honestly, with all of the actors playing the Innies and the Outies, they do feel like completely different characters to me.
Yeah.
Like, I do feel like we have lost a character in the show, and that Outie Irving is completely separate. He doesn't feel the same.
No.
That, I don't know what they are doing. I don't understand.
Yeah.
But they do not feel the same, and I just major props to everybody involved in making that happen. I'm sure that's the directing too. I'm sure there's lots of things that are going into that, but I just, every time I'm like kind of baffled. I'm like, wow, I literally am separating these two things in my head completely.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk about Mark.
Okay, let's talk about Mark.
Because my guy is going through it in this episode, man. Adam does such a good job in portraying the trauma that Mark is going through in this episode. Yes. I love what the showrunner said about the severed characters, in that season 1 was almost like the toddler phase for them. They're all relatively new. Particularly, you see it through Helly R's perspective, but even Mark hasn't been there for that long.
There's a naivete to them.
Yes, and then in season 2, this is their adolescent stage. They're gaining a more clearer sense of their sense of self.
They're rebelling.
Yes, very teenage-like. And I do think it's a very accurate depiction of a teenager or adolescent having a traumatic, intimate experience, which is exactly what Mark has. This is his first time having that, moment with a partner that he claimed to, have strong feelings for, and he feels violated. He isolates himself, which is almost identical to what Outie Mark does, which sort of shows how connected they are as people, even though they're severed. And I thought it was so cruel that Milchick threw that in his face.
It's degrading.
Yeah. I think he knows that something feels wrong. Like, Mark knows what happened was wrong. I think there's shame that he doesn't want to be able to, he doesn't have to say it out loud, but I think he also doesn't know how to explain or describe the violation that he went through, which is, again, another thing that adolescents could potentially go through when they go through something that horrific. They just don't have the language to describe it, or so I don't know. I just felt that so much.
I feel like it's not even just adolescence. It's like really any victim of like some sort of sexual violence.
Yeah.
Again, I think you asked me last episode, like, would I describe it that way? I feel like, again, I'm always going to leave that to the victim, and like you kind of decide like how you want to define the encounter. But any victim of a sexual encounter that does not feel all the way up to code, I feel like goes through this feeling of like you have to work through like the complicated emotions of it, because in the moment he was enjoying it.
Yes.
in the moment when it happened, he wanted it and he was happy. And so having to deal with the conflicting emotions of understanding that something that felt good to you in the moment was actually horrific and terrible, and having to hold those two truths is like, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I also think this feeling of powerlessness that he has immediately following it, because what's happening with Mark in this episode, he's hiding from it just like his outie Mark does, but he's also giving up. He's also surrendering, basically, and just saying, like, what is the point of all of this? I'll do my job. I'll come do what I'm supposed to do, and I'll be done with it, because he feels completely powerless. That entire speech that he gives to Helly in the hallway, when he's talking about how, like, they know everything, like, they're smarter than us, they're always one step ahead of us. I feel like he's really talking around the fact that, like, the one thing that I'm supposed to have agency over down here, I no longer have. It was taken from me, which was my body, at least while I'm down here, and my relationship to my peers and colleagues. That's pretty much all they have down there, and that was stripped away from them. And so now he's just left with this sense of powerlessness of there is nothing that they cannot do, and there is nothing that they cannot take away from me.
Oh my gosh.
You can see too, it messed with his understanding of, like, identity of innies versus outies, and, you know, what is true and what is not, and what is the real you and what is not, because he didn't sense the difference in Helly. You can kind of see him struggling with that. That's kind of, it shows up in how he's kind of not really showing his mourning for Irv, because he's like, well, he's not really gone. You
can tell he was embarrassed, because when Helly R asked Mark, so you couldn't tell a difference, and he starts stuttering around a little bit. You know what this reminded me of, bro? That I feel like handled this so much better. The boys had almost the exact same storyline.
Oh, yeah.
With Huey and Starlight. And I remember
when she got mad at him and beat him up, I was like, girl, wait, did she beat him up or I made that up?
Well, she got very angry at him, and
the thing that was frustrating is, like, okay, fine if you want to have the character of Starlight feel that way and express her emotions that way, but it was like the show wanted us to be like, Huey, you idiot.
Yes.
I was like, wait, guys.
That's no. No. So bad, bro. Oh my gosh. And it's just funny how this story plot feels borderline identical, but they handle it so much better.
Yeah.
So much more intentional.
Class act over there at Severance.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the through line through this episode was really the loss of agency.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the through line for the entire show.
But this felt like a crux of the moment.
Yes, because you also see the same theme with both Helena, that's how I'm going to differentiate now, Helena, outie, and Helly R are both sensing that from, like, opposite directions, which, again, I think we're going to get Helena.
I think we're going to get a few people.
Yeah. Where I thought she was before, when I was kind of, like, skeptical of her, the whole outie theory, is where she actually is now. This idea of her not being given the choice to go in as Helly R, having to give up her agency, and knowing that she is only being sent down there essentially as, like, an incentive for Mark S, is essentially where she is at now. So you see her kind of wrestling with that. Also, the power dynamics in Lumon with her, we're starting to kind of really see how those play out, because why does she not have the say to go and talk directly to her father about what happened? And why does she have to talk through these intermediaries too?
And she's supposed to be the successor.
That's crazy. I am wondering if there are going to be, or if these are some of the repercussions for her having sex with Mark. I am wondering if they are punishing her low-key.
Yeah.
Because I don't think she was supposed to do that.
Well, you think she's not married. And based on the purity culture that Lumon has, I think that's why they were like, we're not going to tell your father, because we honestly don't know how he would react to her promiscuity. Yeah.
So part of this kind of, I'm wondering if it's a little bit of, like, punishment for her sins. Yeah. But then you also see Helly kind of sort of voicing the same things, which the writers of the show had such a clear understanding of these characters at their core, and how these core aspects of who they are would show up in different ways in the innies and the outies.
Yeah.
Because Helena and Helly R both have the tendency to very quickly villainize the other person. Like Helly R, she don't mess with these outies, okay? She been like she does not like or respect them. And you also see Helena very quickly do the same thing. She calls them animals. Yeah. Now, in her defense, okay, now they have tried to kill her twice. Okay, like that's a lot.
Granted, though, this was after she called Helly R not human.
Yeah, you kind of put them in a corner where they had no other options, which is a thing I actually want to get to next. But both of those tendencies, I think, comes from the privileged position that Helena has in real life.
Yeah,
like it makes a lot of sense when you know who Helena is in real life. It makes a lot of sense that her Innie was the one to be like, absolutely not. Y'all are not about to stick me down here and not give me any rights and not let me because she's a very privileged person in the real world.
Yeah.
She is not accustomed to this type of treatment. She is not accustomed to this type of discomfort. She has a sense of self where she believes that she is deserving of things. And that's not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. That's not a bad thing, obviously. But you can see how that plays out for both Innie Helly and Outie Helly.
Well, I would say the lack of agency expands not just with Helena and Helly R. You see it with Mark, because now he feels like he can't have the agency to have genuine relationships with his friends. You see it with Dylan, although some of it was on him, but the agency to like truly support and like genuinely grieve, because if he pushes too far, like Milchick essentially threatens that some of the privileges that he has would be taken away with his family. And I think we see it with Natalie again. She does not have the agency to say what she is truly feeling.
That girl is afraid.
Yes.
That is fear.
Genuine, terrified look on her face, because Milchick was like, I would love to know. He asked her twice. I would love to know your feelings when you got that painting. And in both instances, she dodged the question. But I also think, and this is the complexity of Milchick, because he's not a good person, but he does not want to be Harmony Cabell. I think that's been very clear, because they essentially demonized his reform efforts on the MDR floor, and he does not have the agency to be somewhat of a humane boss. They've taken that away from him also, and he gives into it, which I think is the difference between him and some of the other people like Mark.
I also think that what I like about the storyline with Milchick and how we're kind of learning more about the hierarchy of this company is it points to one of the reasons why reform in any sort of, not just corporate culture, but any sort of organizational structure or institution, part of the reason why it is so difficult to achieve any real lasting change and reform in so many institutions is because of this type of structure. This type of structure where every person above you has another person above them that's beating down on them about the things that they need to do. And that person is doing that because there's somebody above them that's beating down on them about the things that they need to do. So everybody just feels constricted in their roles and how much they can move and how much they can do and achieve. And there's so much distance between the people at the bottom and the people at the top that messages don't even get all the way up. Because everybody is having to filter things through their own fear of whatever consequences they could face. And everybody's just being motivated by the person above them that's making them behave the way that they are behaving to the people below them. So seeing that with Milchick, it does make me feel a lot more empathy for his character. I don't know. I know you said like he's not a good person. I don't know how to put a value judgment on him quite yet.
Yeah, that's fair.
I feel like he's also operating out of like shame and fear and a need to prove himself as a black man in this company.
And it sucks that he keeps trying to go to Natalie, the only other black person, and he cannot get
she
community.
Is not your ally. I'm sorry. You are going to have to find somebody else.
Bro, not all skin folk are kinfolk, my guy.
She's not going to. I think the problem with Natalie, I think she is too close to the people in charge. And so she knows what to be afraid of. I don't know what it is, but that girl is terrified.
I mean, it sounds like they've got connections everywhere, bro. The doctor is telling Mark that like they've got connections in the morgue. What does that even mean? The sanctity of the dead is gone now.
Oh my gosh.
This was one thing that I thought of. when Milchick was trying to tell them this story of the king of Sweden, the king in Sweden, he goes down in disguise so that he can get a better sense of what the life is like for the people, the common folk. You know what that reminded me of, bro? When these celebrities be like volunteering for a day to work at McDonald's and feeling like they understand it all. Nah, bro, you're still a bourgeoisie. You're still an upper class.
You have an out.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you can check out.
Or
this was a field trip for you.
You know what else it's like? There's like those. It's been made into like a movie. Like, there's movies about this. There's also been like there was a reality TV show that did this with these two families that swapped. But also like on like really this seriously, like a person wrote a book and did this. But like when white people put on blackface to pretend to be black people, like I don't remember who it is. My parents told me about this, but like there is a white man that like did this and like as like a serious project and like wrote a book about his experience.
Bro, buddy was like, bro, 3 days of this, I'm cooked. It's time to go back.
It's like, it's just so crazy because like you could just believe when people tell you, like like you could just listen and believe us. It's not like the Innies haven't been telling you exactly what it's like. I mean, we all know that wasn't really what she was doing anyway. We know she was just spying, but like it's just such nonsense. I also find it so funny that season 1 spinning all of the BS to the Innies made a little bit more sense because they were way more accepting of it. Even if they didn't 100% believe it, they at least were playing along.
Yeah.
Season 2, it's so funny watching them still try because every time the Innies are like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, get out of here with that. Every time Milchick comes in with his little proper buttoned up attitude and his cute little stories and his big words. And every time the Innies are like, STFU, we know you're lying.
Bro.
Stop playing with me. I don't even understand what the motivation is to do this. It's just, again, it's like that. It's just that insufferable corporate tendency to just like keep playing the part, keep trudging along, keep pretending everything is fine no matter what. We're going to ignore it. This, toxic positivity, da-da-da-da-da-da. Just like, what are we doing this for?
And it's also the erasure of Irving. It just reminds me of a couple of things. Like when a close friend of yours in the workspace is let go, and then a day later, everything about them is gone. Their desk is cleared out. Like there is no memory of their existence in the space that you were spending, probably in terms of tier, like one of the most hours with anyone in your life. And
it's always like weirdly taboo to talk about them.
Elephants in the room.
Like,
you know what I mean?
This weird thing. I was really thinking this episode about, obviously there's a lot of parallels in Severance to the workplace and, corporate life in America. I was thinking during this episode how much I think that the Innie experience really resembles the experience of people in prison and inmates.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I mean, I'm gonna just talk about America, but like probably not just America.
I mean, God.
The absolute voicelessness of the Innies. They have no ability to get their message out to the real world at all. They have absolutely no access. Is something that we have seen obviously play out with people in prison when they are trying to advocate for themselves. There was a clip a little bit ago. I cannot remember what it was in reference to. But like in the background behind them, you saw the lights in this prison start to flicker. And that was the inmates in the prison trying to get out their voice on whatever was being discussed in like this news clip. I cannot remember what it was, but we've seen instances like this where like, because they are completely barred off from society, they are essentially easily forgotten and easily dehumanized and easily erased. And that's the exact same experience that you have with the Innies. They have no ability to get anything out there. And so their legacy, what they are able to leave their mark on the world, how they're able to advocate for themselves and get their message out there, it's completely out of their control.
Yeah.
So then it puts them in this weird corner, in this weird box where their only leverage is their own bodies. And you see that with Helly in season 1 when she makes the attempt to unalive herself in the elevator. I think part of her, maybe she's saying, I mean, if it works, it works. But part of her is also like, if it doesn't work, I'm sending a message.
Yes.
She knew she was endangering herself.
Yeah.
But she understood this is how I get to them. Same thing when you had last week with Irving. He understands that he is harming somebody that he cares about, but that is the only leverage that he has in this situation. And that is exactly what we see with people in prison. Their only leverage is harm to themselves, hunger strikes, prison riots. Those types of things are the only way that they can get their message out there, because that's the only leverage that they have over anybody and anything. That's the only hope that they have, that people will care enough, pay attention enough, and that their message will break through enough to get the attention of people on the outside. And I don't, that just stuck out to me this episode.
That's such a good point.
I did want to talk about what's happening with Ricken.
Yo, what kind of sellout energy is my guy on right now, bro? I think they're going to get a divorce.
It was always weird that they were together.
You can't love that man no more, yo. You have seen his soul.
I saw people theorizing about this on the internet because there's some people who believe that the whole town is severed. Like there's some people that
honestly, some of them people weird as hell.
And people were, one of the things I pointed out was they were like, Devin and Ricken's relationship actually does not make any sense.
What does she find in this man, bro?
Like she does not take anything that he does seriously.
And she feels it's like he's always annoying her.
I know. Okay, but anyways, a couple things about Ricken's book. Number one, the corporatizing of some sort of message that works in opposition to what they are standing for. You brought this up last week with what they did
Irving.
to Irv in the clip. But I feel like it's just like the oppression playbook 101. Like if you have, a voice that is countering whatever you are trying to make happen and they're being impactful, rather than squashing it and essentially martyring them, the smartest thing to do is to buy them out, to own them, and to make them yours, because that's what they're trying to do. They saw that Ricken's book had a huge influence on the Innies, and so now they're going to try to utilize that and utilize his influence over them to get the Innies to be more compliant.
Yeah.
By taking his image and his book and turning it into whatever they want it to be. But then also Ricken, he just reminds me of, just those fake woke, just those people that will jump on a bandwagon and they'll say anti-establishment things because it's trendy, because it gets people's attention, because it gives them a viral moment. But they're not really down for the cause. And the second that it's inconvenient to them or that sticking with it requires them to lose out on something, they'll give it up just like that.
Those are our thoughts for Severance. We'd love to hear what you guys think. Let us know in the comments below. We always have enjoyed the conversation that you guys have. And we want to just once again say thank you for the support you guys have been showing us so far. Kind of cool to be like, oh, I'm so glad the algorithm put this YouTube video on our page. It's just like, hey, bro, that's kind of dope. Like, we're just kind of recording this in like a spare room in our apartment.
Makes me feel warm and fuzzy every time.
So thank you guys for that. It means a lot. And thank you for those that have been subscribing. We really do appreciate it.
All right. So Apple TV Plus reached out to us via their partner First Bite to give us a little sneak peek at their new film, The Gorge, coming out February 14th. So tomorrow. Yeah. By the time you guys see this, it'll be out. I don't want to say too much. I will say, don't watch the trailer.
Oh, it gives a little bit too much, right?
Yeah, the trailer gives away quite a lot. I found that I was pleasantly surprised at the way that it subverted the genre that I thought it was going to be. It kind of mixed it up and threw in a little something else that I wasn't expecting, but I liked it. Yeah. It's a good time. It's very fun. If you are fans of Alien, like the Alien franchise, I would say you tap in. It's a good time. There's like some similar things going on. Also, there's like some nice like military spy thriller levels happening. And then really what it really is at its heart is a romance movie. So if you like romance, tap in. Miles Teller, Anya Taylor-Joy, Sigourney Weaver. It's a good time. I would say check it out.
Appreciate it. And thank you again, Apple, for giving us that early release to watch it. That really does mean a lot. So Captain America, A Brave New World is coming out this weekend. I guess technically it's out tonight once we're recording, because some people show early viewings on Thursday, and it's had some mixed reviews from critics and from fans. Here's what I'll say, because we chose not to review it primarily because just for personal reasons. And I've been just really sad about the reception and the discourse that's just sort of surrounding this movie. Like, really sad. Honestly, bro, it just kind of feels like Marvel let Anthony Mackie down on a number of instances. I know that the movie's gotten some mixed reviews, and I know that fans are going to make their own opinion, and there's a lot of discourse around like how much critic reviews matter and whatnot, but that isn't really what I want to sort of focus on. From jump, Falcon and Winter Soldier, I would say, is a success. It got a lot of viewership, people were tuned in, and we don't see Sam Wilson for close to almost 5 years, right? And this is supposed to be your Captain America. And then when the movie gets introduced, there were a few problematic name titles that they had that sort of tie to some very problematic ideas. And then they bring in characters in the Marvel comics that also had like a problematic backstory, essentially, especially with just the politics of what's happening in our country right now. For the life of me, I cannot understand why you felt like you had to put this specific character in the movie. But
were they filming though beforehand?
I don't know. But the issue is, from what I'm hearing from people, is that you could tell that some of her scenes were cut out from Captain America, probably due to the backlash. And then on top of all of that, the reveal of Harrison Ford was supposed to be this big thing. But even that got shrouded with the RDJ reveal. And I remember Anthony Mackie kind of said it in a funny way where he was like, but it's Harrison Ford, which, I'm sorry, that is an objective way to react, because yes, it is Harrison freaking Ford. And I just feel like there's all these rumors and reports that like he's going to be leading the next few Avengers movies with like Secret Wars and everything. But y'all have not established him in the way that you guys did with Chris Evans. And that bothers the hell out of me. It bothers me that the first Captain America movie that we're getting with a black man is shrouded with all of this messiness and is shrouded with all of this drama that I feel like could have been avoided. And I just think that sucks, dude. Everything that I'm hearing about the movie, again, I haven't seen it, so I'm just going off of peers that have seen it, is that he did such a good job. In a movie shrouded with chaos, he stood out. And that just makes me sad, bro.
They've kind of done this with everybody that they've introduced. They've done this with Shang-Chi. When are we ever going to see him again?
Bro.
Not even rumors. I don't even know. Same thing with the Eternals.
And you know what, bro? It does suck that it feels like it's happening to a lot of people of color in or marginalized groups. That's what's frustrating me also. Even like, when are we gonna see Shuri again? Right.
No more. Like, we really don't know. It is frustrating. It is frustrating because we know that they know how to do this well because they did it. You did this with your rollout first with Iron Man, Cap, Thor. You had your vision. You mapped it out. They popped into each other's stuff, so we kept seeing them, culminated into big things together. The formula works, okay? I don't know.
I had to get that off my chest, because that was just, I've just been bummed out for the last few days, man.
It's ironic because the plot of Falcon and the Winter Soldier was essentially that Sam Wilson was hesitant to take on the mantle of Captain America because he knew how it would be received.
Yeah.
And he knew that he would have to deal with the racist backlash of it all. And then in real life, you're putting him in a position to be susceptible to that same type of backlash because we know that this is the ammo that, you know, those fans will use to be like, look at the DEI superhero movies. Like, especially right now.
It's so frustrating.
We got too much going on.
And this kind of leads into the second part that I want to bring up, just about comic book fans in general, bro. I want to see how I can word this very carefully. I've been a fan of superheroes and comic books my entire life. But man, some of you white male comic book fans get on my last damn nerves, bro. And it's not every white male fan. I just want to put that out there before somebody gets triggered. But there's a lot of y'all that carry this sense of arrogance that is so unwarranted. Because half the time, y'all be media illiterate as F, bro. And it's always, this is stemming from a comment that Anthony Mackie made about Captain America. Like, he's not for America. Like, he's for like being a good person, right? And you had a lot of these white males in this comment sections under the post very angry. And it was like, oh, they brought this guy in and he doesn't even understand who Captain America is. Mind you, those comments are responded with clips of Chris Evans saying the same thing, but also screenshots from the comics of Captain America alluding to the same exact thing. It's so frustrating how some of you guys can be so comfortable when it comes to being so loud.
I mean, isn't that like
wrong.
The whole thing with Civil War, like in the comics and in the movies?
Yes. Some of y'all are like this with Marvel. You're like this with DC. You're like this with Star Wars. You're like this we saw it with Dune. It's as if the allegory is anything attached to an identity that they don't have, they missed the point. Or if the allegory to these stories, like Dune, or sometimes with Star Wars, or even sometimes with Marvel, is critiquing a value that they hold, it goes over their head. And I do feel like some of it is more it's just due to the sociopolitical climate that we're in right now. A lot of them have just kind of been taught that these things aren't an issue anymore. And if they aren't an issue anymore, like we're in a post-racial society, someone trying to point out that this is an allegory about race won't land in their head. It'll go right over their head. And it's like we see it all the time in the comment sections where we're critiquing something and we know that it was very intentional. And they're like, bro, this has nothing to do with race, bro. This has nothing. Gay people, this has nothing to do with that, bro. You don't even understand the things that you're reading, bro. Someday I hope I can be as comfortable being as loud and wrong as some of y'all. But for now, I've got shame. You know what I mean? I've got pride as a person, as a man. And that's not something I'd be comfortable being so loudly wrong on the internet. That's not me, bro. So
it's also just, I don't know, it's like their stance is like the audacity of someone else to take something else out of the story that I didn't get.
Because they have this sense of ownership over everything. Some of y'all feel like you own Marvel, or you own Star Wars, or you own Dude. And anytime someone reads these and pulls an allegory that is connected to their personhood and their experience, which is the exact form of how art works, by the way, y'all take offense to that. And it's just so funny to me, bro. It's just so funny to me.
I think they fear irrelevance. I think they're being told to be fearful that these things are like taking away their cultural relevance. That like the representation in films and media and music, that all of that is like a threat to their social standing. That's essentially, I mean, that's what's happening right now at all levels.
It is categorically false. Mm-hmm. White males still make the majority of protagonists for TV shows and movies.
Not just that, but that's a scarcity mindset. Like, there actually is room for all of us.
Yes. 100%, bro.
We can all be there together having a jolly good time. You know, you just have to stop being so mad about it. I don't know. Like, all I'm gonna say is, you know, there was years where there wasn't a single black Marvel film and black people weren't protesting a damn thing.
No, bro.
We were just sitting there having a good time. I don't know. We weren't review bombing Iron Man 1. We were just having a good time.
We also weren't review bombing the movies and the TV shows where they whitewashed characters, where they race swapped people of color for white men or for white women. We didn't review bomb those things. That's my little rant. That's just been weighing on my heart a little bit. So I apologize if that's such a tangent, but I had to get it off my chest, y'all. My bad.
No, I understand. I get it. It's a lot going on right now.
Anyways, but yeah, so we're probably not going to put a review for Captain America 4 for our own personal reasons. We're choosing not to review it. But yeah, y'all, we still appreciate the support that you guys have given to this channel over the last few months. It's been pretty incredible. And as always, we love the comments that you guys bring.
Yes.
So thank you guys for that. But yeah, with that, we will see you all next week. Take care, everyone. Peace.